Canto 15. Summary. As the pilgrim gazes at the constellation of the cross formed by the dancing spirits descending to meet him here in the fifth sphere, one light in particular draws near. He begins rejoicing in Latin over Dante's arrival, saying, "O my blood, O overflowing grace of God, for whom was heaven's entrance ever opened twice, as it has been for you?" He then addresses the pilgrim directly, encouraging him to ask the question he knows Dante wants to ask. Who is he? He is Cacciaguida, Dante's great-great-grandfather, although he doesn't name himself until late in the canto. In a moment of regret and sadness, Cacciaguida reminisces with Dante about what Florence used to be like back in his day. Back then, men and women were modest and measured. The nobility did not flaunt their wealth, nor did they indulge in lascivious behavior. Families were intact and wholesome. As we have learned from the pilgrim's many invectives, the Florence of Dante's own day had grown decadent and corrupt. Truly noble people like the Romans Cincinnatus and Cornelia, celebrated for their virtue, would be as out of place in Dante's Florence as Dante's debauched contemporaries, Cinghiela and Lapo Saltarello, would be in Cacciaguida's time. After finally giving his name, he ends the canto by telling the pilgrim how he followed the Emperor Conrad in the Second Crusade during the middle of the 12th century. There in the Holy Land he died as a martyr, as all who were killed in the Crusades were considered to be. Canto 15. Mars. The benevolent will in which the love that breathes forth rightly always shows itself, as does cupidity in wicked wills, brought silence down upon that dulcet lyre, and quieted the holy strings which are loosed and tuned by the right hand of heaven. How will those beings be deaf to righteous prayer, who, giving me the wish to pray to them, together agreed to remain silent? It is right that he grieves without limit, who, for the sake of that which endures not, eternally strips himself of that love. As through the clear skies, both tranquil and pure, a sudden flame passes from time to time, shifting the eyes that had remained steady, and seems like a star changing its setting, save that from that place where it is kindled none is lost, and it endures but little. So too a star from the constellation that shines there ran from the horn that stretches on the right side to the foot of the cross. The gem did not depart from the ribbon, but traversed along the radial arm and looked like fire behind alabaster. Such piety the shade of Anchises showed, if our greatest muse merits belief, when in Elysium he saw his son. O sanguis meus, o superinfusa gratia Dei, sicut tibi cui bis unquam celi iana reclusa. Thus that light, wherefore I paid heed to him. Then I turned my eyes back to my lady, and on this side and that, was stupefied. For in her eyes was blazing such a smile, I thought that I, with mine, had touched the depths of my glory and my beatitude. Thereafter a joy to hear and to see, the Spirit added to his beginning words so deep I did not understand them. Not by choice did he hide himself from me, but by necessity, for his judgments were set above the target of mortals. When the arrow of ardent affection had run its course, so that his speech came down near to the target of our intellect, the first thing understood by me was this: "Blessed are you," he was saying, "three in one, who is so courteous to my offspring." And this followed: "A long treasured hunger drawn from reading that great volume wherein neither white nor black is ever altered. You have satisfied, my son, in this light in which I speak to you. Thanks be to her who dressed you with plumes for the lofty flight. You believe that your thought flows down to me from he who is the first, such as the fifth and sixth radiate from the one, if known. And therefore who I am and why I seem to be more joyful than any other in this cheerful crowd, you do not ask me. You believe the truth, for the less and great of this life gaze into that looking-glass, which, before you think, reveals the thinking. But that the sacred love in which I watch with perpetual sight, which makes me thirst with sweet desiring, is better fulfilled with your voice secure and bold and joyful. Let sound your will, and let sound your desire, to which my answer is already set." I turned round to Beatrice, and she heard before I spoke, and smiled on me a sign that made the wings of my desire expand. Then I began, "Both affection and sense become of equal weight for each of you, once you have seen the prime equality, because that sun illumined and warmed you with both heat and light in equal measure. All comparisons are insufficient. But desire and argument in mortals by a cause that is manifest to you are variously feathered in their wings. Wherefore I, being mortal, feel in myself this difference, and thus only with my heart give I thanks for your paternal welcome. Indeed, I beg of you, living topaz, set as a gem in this precious jewel, that you satisfy me as to your name. O my branch, in whom I have pleased myself even in the waiting, I was your root." With such a beginning he answered me. Then he said, "He from whom your family takes its name, who 100 years and more has rounded the mount on the first terrace, was my son and your grandfather's father. It is surely appropriate for you to shorten his long efforts with your works. Florence, there within the ancient circle from which she still receives both terce and nuns, was dwelling in peace, sober and modest. She wore neither necklace nor coronet, nor dresses embroidered, nor the girdles meant to be noticed more than the person. She did not yet make a father afraid of his newborn daughter, for marriage age and dowry did not outstrip their measure. Her houses were not void of families. Sardanapalus had not yet arrived to show what could be done in the bedroom. Montemalo was not yet exceeded by your Uccialatoio. As it was surpassed in its rise, so too in its fall. I saw Bellencione Berti belted with leather and bone, and his lady leave her looking-glass without a painted face. And I saw one of the Nerli and one of the Vecchio content with plain hides, and their ladies at the spindle and flax. O fortunate ones, each certain of their sepulchre, and no lady as of yet deserted on her couch because of France. One kept watch over the cradle with care, and, consoling, employed those idioms that first delight both fathers and mothers. Another, stretching flax to the distaff, was telling fables to her family, of the Trojans, of Fiesole, and Rome. A Cingella and Saltarello would then have seemed as shocking as would now a Cincinnatus or Cornelia. To such peace, to such a beautiful life among my townsmen, to such a faithful citizenship, to such a sweet dwelling, did Mary give me, called on with loud cries. And in your ancient baptistry at once was I a Christian and Cacciaguida. My brothers, Moronto, Elisio, my wife came to me from the Po valley, and from her has your surname been derived. Then I followed the Emperor Conrad, and he girt me round as one of his knights, having won his favour by my good deed. I followed him against the wickedness of that false law whose subjects, by the guilt of your shepherds, seize what is justly yours. At the hands of that repugnant people was I there freed from this deceptive world, the love of which has spoiled so many souls. I came to this peace from my martyrdom.